This was our backsplash when we first put our kitchen together. We bought a remnant, had it cut to fit, and had it installed while we were waiting for our tiling work to be done. We changed our minds, decided that we wanted to go a different route, so we pulled that granite out and ended up going with this piece of art, which looks great. But that leaves us with this piece of granite now. What do we do with that? Well, we're going to use it to make an end table for our living room. So here we are in Sketchup, and this is the table. It's the tabletop anyway. And what we want to do is put some legs under it, and it will fit right between our two sofas. So this is the model in SketchUp. This is our top, which is about 3 foot square, somewhere in that neighborhood. And what I'll do is I've got some leftover cypress, so I'm going to make up these legs out of cypress. We'll have them cross in the middle. I'll put a piece of plywood underneath there to give me something to attach the granite to. I'll probably just use silicone. But this is it. This is the table I intend to build. Let's get started. If you've seen any of my recent projects, you'll see there's a recurring theme here of barely having enough material to finish these jobs. I'm making these out of cypress, and this is some leftover cypress that I had, the last of the last. I've done a lot of work with it. I bought a bunch of it cheap, and this is what I have left. So I made a little list here of what I needed, and I laid it out on these boards and cut them roughly to size so I'd have enough material to work with. And so I need 8 pieces for the legs and 4 for the tops. And you may say, why 8? There should only be 4 legs. That's true, there are 4 legs, but I want these to be a little bit chunkier. So I'm looking at something maybe 1.25 inches thick. So what I'll do is glue these up. I'll glue 2 of these together so I can make those legs, and I'll do the same thing with the top piece that crosses. So we'll begin by just planing one surface nice and smooth on each of these boards so that I can glue them up, and then we'll move on from there. One other thing I want to mention about cypress, if you're not familiar with cypress, it looks a lot like cedar. And it's the big difference between cypress and cedar, though, is that cypress is hard like oak. So it's kind of the best of both of those woods. It's got beautiful grain. I've made a lot of different pieces out of this stuff, and I only wish I had more. All right, think I got enough clamps on there? Yeah, these wooden clamps are wide enough to do almost all of them except for these. So these guys go on their own. Now we just wait. I'm going to start by transferring this template onto a piece of cardboard. It'll work a lot easier for tracing. It'll be a little bit more rigid than just plain old paper. So I've taped it down to a piece of cardboard. I'll use some straight edges to help me do some cutting. All right, these mitered corners, I want to make sure that they're strong, and I could use biscuits like I did on the waterfall bench, but with the amount of weight and the fact that this is angled just a little bit, I think I want something a little more beefy than that. So what I'm going to do, I pulled out this old Craftsman Doweling Jig. I've had this thing for, I don't know, probably 30 years. And what I can do with this one is this gives me alignment to drill dowel holes, and then I'll use some pretty chunky dowels in there, and that will give me all the support I need for each of these corners. And the way this works is I've gone in and marked, I'm going to do 3 dowels on every one of these miters. So I mark it across that miter, and then I use, you see this little mark right here. I use this mark when I'm setting up my doweling jig, and that way those dowels will align perfectly. Okay, I'm using about 2-inch long dowels, and so they'll be about 1 inch in on each of these sides, and I want to give it a little bit of extra room inside there just so it doesn't get jammed up to the end. So I've got a collar on this drill bit, a stop collar, and I'll just set that so that we're at 2 3/8. Let's get something we can read here. Here we go. That's it right there. All right, so now when I drill, we'll take it in there and it'll stop about 1 1/4 inches. Hey, how you doing? Come on. This guy we're calling Earl. brought out the whole sanding arsenal. I've got my trusty random orbital. That'll work great on all the flat surfaces. I brought my belt sander. I've got a lot of work just to get the bandsaw side cleaned up. And then I brought a drum sanding attachment. And I'm hoping that helps me make it through this curve, at least to get a first pass on it. I screwed these legs to some 1x so that I could poly all sides at once and not have to wait and flip those over.